Welcome to Because We Can. My name is Jay, an advocate and conscious seeker. Each week we will explore inspiring messages to help us unlock our truest potential and power within all of us to become the best versions of ourselves. When we believe we can, we are absolutely limitless. Thank you for joining me today. Now let's dive in and see what today's message brings us. Testing 1, 2. Check, check.
Check. Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
2 hours later.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Testing.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
A few moments later.
Welcome. Isn't it these cute little pajamas that we are stunting in right now?
Mine are milk and cookies.
And mine are a nice floral blue and navy blue. So before we jump into this next episode, I wanted to give a warm welcome to our very first guest on this show. None other than my partner in crime, my girlfriend, Mikayla Bostic. She is a renowned service leader in her community, serving alongside her grandmother with Arethia's House of Purpose and other nonprofit organizations. A kid at heart, a person who has so much love to give. And she's gonna be talking with us today about self-care, how to balance one's love for oneself and others, and also how to be a good human in this world, in this day and age, and what that looks like. So if you're interested, tune in, join us as we explore what that looks like for you. All right, without further ado, this is Mikayla Bostic, and this is Because We Can. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jay, and we actually are doing a special show today. I'm super excited to introduce my first guest of the series of the podcast. And I would like you to give a warm welcome to my girlfriend, Mikayla, a.k.a. Mick.
Hi, I am Mikayla. I also go by Mick, and I'm really excited to be here. I'm looking forward to the conversation that we're going to have today. Looking forward to some of these questions you have ready for me. So I'm ready.
Awesome. Okay, we'll dive right in. I would like to know how you would like to introduce yourself, and we'll go from there.
So I normally introduce myself kind of just based off of like my background and what I do. So as a basis, I work in higher education. I'm a student advisor. I really enjoy it. I also thankfully get the opportunity to work remotely, so that is also something I'm super, super grateful for. I got my bachelor's in psychology and got my master's in industrial and organizational psychology, and my experience in higher education is what led me to want to work in higher education. So initially, when I was getting my bachelor's, I was thinking of doing something along the lines in social work or maybe counseling, things like that. And then as I dove further into education, the interest in higher education became larger. And so from there, I got my master's in industrial and organizational psychology, and I gained an interest in policy writing, and I wanted to write policy for employees, whether they're in higher education, whether they're students, whatever they may be doing. I wanted to write policy in regards to Title IX, work-life balance, and things along those lines. And then from there, that kind of fell off because there's a lot of steps in the ladder you need to climb up to get to that point.
Oh, yeah.
Which that doesn't mean that I quit. I'm not giving up, but I definitely take some time to get there. So where I'm at right now, I'm very happy. So aside from my background and what I do, I would say very playful, very silly. Also sometimes a little awkward. I do enjoy socializing, but I'm not always the best at it. I love conversation, but I'm more of a listener than a speaker. I just want to hear
That's how
about,
I am too.
people's days and their lives and what they have going on, and I'm not opposed to sharing, but it doesn't just come out naturally for me. That is a little bit about myself. I have a dog, I have a cat.
Ani and Popo.
Yes, they're my sweet little babies. I'm a very routine person, very organized. Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. I know sometimes you don't feel like you are this, but how you're so put together and so pristine, and everywhere you go, it's like you're already one step ahead. That was one thing that really set you apart from a lot of people that I've come across, and especially like with dating and everything too. But I mean, that's one of the qualities I really have admired about you, is how you're able to manage your time with everything that you do, because you've gone to school, you've graduated with a master's and a bachelor's, and you've had a various experience in different things work-wise. So like, how have you navigated all of that and still have time for you?
Well, first, I want to say thank you. That was very sweet of you.
Yeah.
I think it's really exciting that you see me in that way, because you're right, I don't always see that.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer your question, how do I make time for me, given everything that I am involved with? I think it comes with a lot of discipline. I have a specific time in my day that I set aside for myself that I won't say no one, because you're allowed to impede on that time, but I wouldn't even consider you impeding on that time. It's I just enjoy your company, right?
Yeah.
But I have specific time that I set aside, especially in the mornings, like my morning routines and my evening routines.
Mm-hmm.
That's my time to make sure that I'm pouring into my cup so that I can pour into others as well.
Nice. Yeah, I have yet to master that. Would you say, like, because I know, having gotten to know you, you love to put others first, and you are a very caring person. And would you say, like, over time, maybe in the interactions you've had with others, or like family or relationships, that contributed to you having that firm discipline with yourself and with other people, and how much time you make for others versus yourself? Where do you think that came from?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think for me, it stems from the things that make me feel good. And I know that I really enjoy the things that make me feel good. And if I don't make specific time for myself to be able to do those things, then I won't. Because one thing about me, I will go to bed early.
She will.
I
8
really
o'clock.
value my sleep. And Jay is not lying. There are times where they will call me and I'm already snuggled up in bed, doing my journaling or whatever else. And it'll be like 7:45 going on 8 o'clock, and
I'm still working.
I'll be asleep, going to sleep in the next 30 minutes. But I think that stems from the fact that I start my day really early. So I'm someone who gets up at 5 a.m. To some people that may not be early. For me it's early, but even though it is early, I do it because I know that that's the time that I have. So that's why I go to bed so early. I just want to clarify that.
You're not crazy.
I usually do get up around 5 a.m. and I'm very strict with my morning routine, and I'm very consistent. Because consistency is what keeps me on track to do those things. It doesn't have to be the same thing every morning, but if I don't follow a similar schedule every morning, then I will kind of just get, stuck. Like, okay, what do I do next? I think I'm going to take a nap now, So if I'm not, like, following that routine, it definitely throws me off. So I would say things that keep me on track with that balance is discipline, as far as knowing that I want to feel good, and I know how to make myself feel good. And consistency.
Okay. You mentioned pouring back into yourself and making sure that whatever you do throughout each day, it's allowing you to feel good and to re-energize and recover, right, from like a long day of work or a long week, or if you had like a really fun time with friends or whatever it is. On the topic of self-care is what I wanted to bring up next, which you do a phenomenal job at. I don't know how you do that. I feel like a lot of people are just getting acquainted with it and introduced to it. It's been around, right? That topic of really taking care of yourself, but what does that really look like? And I know it looks different for everybody, but how does it look to you? And what are some things that you do that to pour into yourself?
For me, I like to focus on the idea of reducing the noise, and that can apply to clutter in my home, that can apply to clutter in my mind, digital clutter. I want to reduce the noise, or even like, I used to be an individual who constantly required background noise to do a task, whether that's a podcast, a YouTube video, a show, a song. It was constant stimulation,
Right.
which for some people maybe that works for them, but for me it was just, I don't know, my brain just felt very active all the time, and that's not a way that I enjoy feeling. I like to take things slow, so I reduce the noise by making sure I set time aside for silence. That silence helps me really get through my thoughts to kind of be able to focus on self-care. And for me, self-care, again, it goes back to, it's more than just the face mask and the bubble bath to me, which that is definitely a component of it, for sure. But every day I take time to make sure I do the closing shift. So before I go to bed, I make sure the kitchen is clean, all the dishes are washed. Anything that's not in its place, I will put it back in its place.
Virgo rising.
Okay.
Pisces sun.
Yeah.
Gemini moon.
That is my chart. Thank you.
Just revealing everything.
But yeah, so I do really enjoy keeping my home tidy and organized, because that means when I get up in the morning, I'm not feeling stressed out about, oh man, I need to clean that and clean that and clean that and clean that. It's
so true.
Okay, this is decent. I might need to do a little bit of sweeping or mopping, but for the most part, my home is clean right now.
Yeah.
And then since I don't have that stress on me when I get up, then I'm more likely to do things like practice my faith and journal and exercise and make sure I'm drinking my water and make sure I'm taking care of, things like paying bills if I have extra time in the morning. All of these little things that add up to me at the end of the day feeling relieved. And then you also mentioned, after having a great time with friends, recovering from that. So I am most definitely an introvert, but I know how to party. I know how to have a good time. And so for me, to recover, again, I have to reduce the noise. So if I've gone for a night out, loud music on the way to wherever I'm going, maybe loud music at the place that I'm at, or just a lot of stimulation, whether I'm like in a store or in a museum or somewhere where there's a lot going on. When I go home, it is silence, it is making sure everything's tidy, it is lighting a candle, it's taking a warm bubble bath to kind of decompress, doing a little bit of skincare, and making sure that I'm shaking off all that extra energy that's not mine, and making sure that I am focusing on the energy that does belong to me when I have that time to be alone. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, it did. One thing I picked up is, what is that saying? Clean mind is a clean space, or the reverse of that, right? Like, the less clutter you have around you, the less clutter you have in your mind.
Right.
And that's something that I picked up from what you were saying, like making sure, your space is relieved so that you could feel relieved, right? And also just having less stimulation and less things to cloud your mind. But yeah, awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I think some people will find that very alleviating and can maybe use that for themselves too. I wanted to ask you, what's one thing that you have really found allowed you to pour into yourself the most out of the things you shared, or maybe something that you haven't shared yet? What's currently something that's been of great interest to you, or that you're diving into further?
So I think something that I've started doing recently that has helped me be able to pour into myself more. So there's a few things, but one of them is allowing myself to not be perfect.
Oof.
Because even though I try to
that.
make sure I do these things every day, that doesn't mean that I do, right? I'm human. Sometimes I'm tired, sometimes I'm moody, sometimes I'm irritated, sometimes you have a long day at work, and I try my hardest to stay positive, but I'm not perfect, and sometimes I have to give myself that moment to say, okay, we're going to let everything slide today, we're going to go to bed at 7 o'clock today, and we'll wake up tomorrow and try again. And I like doing that for myself because I feel that it makes doing the things that I usually do a lot less pressure, so I'm more likely to do them because it's not something where I feel like it's a requirement. It is something I get to do and not something I have to do. And that kind of keeps me on track with that. And then another thing that allows me to pour into myself that I've been exploring more recently is going deeper into my faith and redefining what that means for me and what that looks like for me, and just exploring and, you know, doing my own research. And I've been enjoying that as well.
Nice. I actually wanted to get a little bit into the faith component that you've been exploring. One of the ideas I had for this talk as well was, whenever I'm around you also, is I feel like I myself am being a good quote-unquote human, you know, exploring what does it mean to be a good human. And we actually had like a very stimulating conversation the other day about how to be a good person and what does that look like, and, you know, living in a world today where it's very ambiguous and uncertain, and things that are happening around the world. And I mean, I know it's a lot to get into, but how do we show up every day as an individual and as a collective? When we talk about spirituality and religion, however you see it, we talk about those things. And so I wanted to kind of dive in, what does it mean to be human?
So to me, right, in my opinion, because this can go a lot of different ways, to be human means to experience. And you had asked, what does it mean to be a good human? To me, I think that means to walk with love for others, for yourself, for this planet, for everyone and everything. I'm a little bit of a hippie girl, but I really do enjoy spreading love, right? I think that is the easiest way to be a good human and to experience humanness, is just to be kind to others and kind to yourself. And I think that kindness definitely comes back to you. What you put out is what you receive.
Yeah.
And I think love plays a major component of what it is like to experience this world, because there's a lot of hate, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of destruction. And if you can be some form of love for someone, whether that's a smile, a conversation, support, or even just being in someone's presence, I think is really important.
Yeah. I also wanted to recognize how supportive of a person you are, and like your family as well. And shout out to the Grams, Arethea, right? That's her grandmother's name. And she has a whole organization, Arethea's House of Purpose.
Yeah.
I think since we've reconnected and got to know each other again and been learning more about each other, I don't think I knew that like the first time around when we started dating. So it's been really cool to get closer to your family and to get to know your grandmother, and also how that runs in the family of service and loving people unconditionally and wanting to help people that are in hard times. And so I wanted to highlight that, but also to ask you what your experience has been like serving alongside your grandmother, and even if on your own, like when you were in college, you know, what does service mean to you, and like how can we make society a little bit brighter, a little bit better?
So for me, service is the little things.
Yeah.
A lot of times people look at serving the community as a huge volunteer event or a big project, which those are very good aspects of service. But being willing to do those little things as well, I think, is what allows someone to have that serving heart. And also being willing to know when to take a step back, right? Sometimes what people need in terms of service is space. And sometimes what they need is support. And it all kind of just depends. So being flexible in those areas and kind of navigating that, I think, helps a lot, because if you can balance the active service with the passive service, then it allows you to better understand what that picture is for yourself. Whether I'm serving alongside my grandma with her organization and we're doing a clothing drive or a food drive, or whether it's giving a friend space to process something, or giving my partner space to work through something, giving myself space to work through things, but also giving myself support when I need it, allowing friends into my life, and also being able to have those boundaries, spending time with family versus spending time alone. Like, because I think service, yes, it's for others, but you can serve yourself too. And
dive into that a little bit.
I feel like sometimes when people think of serving yourself, it can be seen as selfish, but that's not what I'm referring to, right? I'm not talking about solely focusing on filling my own cup, but doing the things that do fill my cup so that I can fill others' cups, which kind of goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. Going back to balancing service between yourself versus others, and what I'm going to say big service looks like versus the smaller service items. That balance gives you the opportunity to have the capacity to dive in when you need to dive in, and then you have times where you can step back and pour back into you at the same time.
Nice. I love that. Yeah, I think that's very important that you mentioned of finding that balance between helping yourself and helping other people. I think that's been a struggle that I've had for these past few years, like coming out of college myself, being super involved in the community back then, but really having to take a step back and go within myself to find myself, because I felt like when you give so much to a cause or to people, and you really genuinely want people to thrive, not just survive, sometimes when you put your all into it, you deplete yourself. So I know when we are empathic people, that's definitely a cycle that we go through. And so just being more aware of that, but still being effective in the way that we serve and the way that we give back is the key, I think. And so that's important to distinguish between how much you pour into yourself, how much you pour into other people, but also just feeling at the end of the day proud of yourself and proud of others. And so I really think that's very noticeable in what you do, and the love that you spread, and your family as well. So I wanted to highlight that also. Aside from your work that you do, are there any creative endeavors that you're doing right now?
There are.
Yeah.
So I am trying to start a business. The thing that I've been struggling with is how to do it ethically, because what I'm interested in doing is programs for empowering women, helping them get ahead, especially, individuals who may be recovering from a situation that was very painful or very detrimental, and now they're having to configure their entire lives. I want to start initiatives for that, and so I'm developing that. I don't want to give too much away.
I know,
but I have that in the process, so I am developing the plan for that. The thing I'm struggling with is that I don't want to sell these services to people.
That's always a hard thing.
I don't feel like that's right. I want to somehow be able to provide these services for free. But then it comes down to, okay, well, how do I do that?
Right.
So some people might say, well, you should become a nonprofit. But to become a nonprofit in the state of Texas, you need a board of members. And it's not just like a little bit of people. I think it's a minimum of 6 or 7 from what I remember.
Yeah.
And a lot of people I do know, they're working on their own things. And I don't want to take away from that. And also I do struggle a little bit with kind of like wanting to do everything on my own. And that's something I'm working on, is allowing myself to be supported. I'm not the best at that, but I'm getting better. So that is something I'm really excited to bring to life. Just trying to figure out exactly how.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many videos out there of like how to start this and how to start your business and from the ground up. So easy in 5 steps. Just do this, this, this. And it's like when you're actually doing it, I feel like they don't go into detail to where it's like, oh, wait, I need to do this, you didn't mention that, okay. And so I can just imagine people that are out there wanting to start and they get discouraged because it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much that we're not told or that is not made aware. And so I just want to commend you and to everybody else who have that vision and have that dream, that you are wanting to do something with it. And believe me, I feel like you have the right connections to get it up and going and people in your corner to support you. And I'm always here to help. It really does take a village, and it really does take a team with any cause. I think that's important to highlight. Even if you feel like you may not be supported at this time, never give up on that dream. I think it's so important to go after it, because everybody has a unique path and everybody has a unique calling, and what speaks to you may not speak to somebody else, but we need everybody, their gifts and talents. So I just wanted to throw that in there for whoever's listening, and for my partner in crime. Given that Mikayla here is our first guest, I was thinking of questions to ask every guest.
Okay.
And so I couldn't narrow it down to like 3, but I know on a few podcasts people do like lightning rounds or things of that sort. So go at your own pace, because, we're still kind of like breaking it in. But the first question I wanted to ask you is, I need to look at it real quick. What makes you happy and what brings you joy?
Love. Love makes me happy. Love brings me joy. I like to love others. I enjoy receiving love. Sometimes I have a little bit of difficulty doing that, but again, working on it. But love.
Love? Okay. Next question is, if nothing held you back, what would you do and why? If you had no limits, simply because you can, what would you do and why would you do it?
Well, that's a really good question. And I think I'm going to go with something that I've been wanting to do for a long time.
Okay.
But I'll figure out a way to move into the forest. And
yes, we didn't even dive into that.
Off of the land. And I would start my own little garden. And I would want to do this, figure this out without electricity. So using a fire to create warm water, the basic stuff that's right,
Survivalist guide. I swear, I'm trying to research that this coming year.
I feel like it's stuff that I should know how to do that maybe I don't know how to do. I know you can start a fire using like stick and kindling. But there's a lot of research I need to do. But that's definitely something I would want to do, is move into the forest, live off of the land, forget rent, forget bills.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going off grid.
Off grid? Okay. I'm gonna join you.
Yay!
What advice would you give your younger self?
Advice I would give my younger self is...
Please stop.
Advice I would give my younger self is to relax. I think
that's a good one.
Put a lot of pressure on myself to be what everybody else wanted me to be, and that led me into adulthood and having all of these different personalities depending on who I was spending time with. Mm-hmm. And I really don't like that, and that's something I'm trying to step away from, is to just be who I am. So I would tell younger me to relax and do you and be you, and people will love you for it. The people who are meant to be in your life will definitely accept you for you being yourself. So be weird and quirky and loud, and yeah, that's what I would tell my younger self, is free, relax, and be you.
What advice would you give someone who might be struggling to find their way right now?
Find someone you can lean on. And I know for a lot of people that's easier said than done. A lot of people don't have support systems in their life. A lot of people are stuck in a situation based off of the society that we live in and the world in which we've created. I won't go too deep into it, but you know, the system created by our society doesn't work to lift up everyone. And so if you can find at least one person who's willing to be in your corner, and if you can't, I would say reach out to me. You know, like, I'm willing to be in your corner, and that's one of the things I like about, you know, the work that I get to do, especially, you know, working with the students I work with. A lot of them, it's not that they don't know, like, how to go to school. It's not that they don't know how to study.
You're a student success coach.
Yeah, it's just that they just need support. And when you don't have that support and you feel alone, things can get really challenging. And some people have to go through it alone, which is, you know, hard to hear and hard to see. Again, I hope that one day that would not be the case. Right. And again, if you need someone in your corner, I'm more than happy to be in your corner. Me too. And that's not to be like this sort of, you know, see myself as a martyr or the savior or anything. Just, I'm here to listen. I'm here to have a conversation. I may not have all the answers, but I can be a support.
Awesome. The second to last question is, how can we make this world a better place?
More love.
More love and zen.
And also, I'm trying to say this without getting too political.
Hey, go right ahead.
But
this is a brave space for everybody.
I think there's so much focus on money because our society is built on money. And
money makes the world go round.
Frustrates me is that the amount of money you have is what determines your worth, how important you are to society, whether or not you deserve health insurance, whether or not you deserve access to certain resources, whether or not you can go to school or get the job that you want. It irritates me, honestly, that money determines your worth. Mm-hmm. So to make this world a better place, let's not determine a human's worth by the amount of money that they have or were born into. Worth should come from who you are, right? And that's not anything groundbreaking. We should all know that your worth as an individual should come from the person that you are, not from the money that you have. That's what I would say.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah, how do you not get too political with that? I think you said it very well. Okay. Last question. What are you working on in this season of your life in 3 words or less?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
3 words or less. Can I do 4?
Okay.
Being receptive to love.
Awesome. You could have also did like 4 one-worders too if you wanted to. love?
Yeah.
Being receptive to love. What do you mean by that?
So I can sometimes be distant, I think, when it comes to love, receiving love. Sometimes I struggle in that area, and it's easy to give love, but then to receive it, it can feel weird, and it's just something I'm working through. It's just past experiences that I've gone through that I think I need to let go of, because sometimes you can hang on to those things when you really shouldn't, and they can prevent you from experiencing a lot of things. That's what that means for me.
Okay, I said that was the last question, but based off what you just mentioned, I wanted to ask one more. Out of all of your experiences you've had up until now, how would you describe the person that they allowed you to become?
They taught me a lot about how to be there for someone and be there for myself. And they've taught me a lot about self-love, boundaries, all of those really important things that I think we all get to a point in our lives where we start to grasp them. But I think given what I went through in the past and the work that I have been doing is really becoming a part of who I am. And it has shaped me in that way. Yes.
Awesome. What a lovely answer.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Well, Mikayla, a.k.a. partner in crime, a.k.a. Mick, thank you for being on Because We Can. And I hope you enjoyed the time here that we've spent all together. We appreciate you for being on the show, being the first one, and I hope you can come back for a second or third round. I know I wasn't able to ask all the questions I wanted to, and let us know if you have any questions you would like to ask Mikayla or a future guest. I would ask, how can we find you, but she is also detoxing from social media and trying to live her off-grid life right now in the process of reclaiming her time back to herself. So I fully respect that. Whenever she makes her way back to Instagram or has her business up and running, I will let everyone know a good contact to have for her if ever you need her. So yeah, thank you for coming on. Is there anything else you would like to mention before we wrap up the show?
No, I just want to say thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Okay.
Feels like the conversations that we have on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So it was nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well. Oh, you know what we could do? We can sign off together and say thank you for tuning into Because We Can. Okay? All right, we'll see if this works. And if not, I can just cut it out. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Thank you for tuning in to Because We Can.
Bye.
That was good. High five.
I take direction
I'm just kidding.
one.
Woo, we did